Hi, NerdWire. Today, Chris and I are interviewing one of the writers from Regular Show and the creator of Infinity Train, Owen Dennis.
Now, because we are still in quarantine at the time of this filming, we are doing this on Zoom. So thank you so much for bearing with us for any possible glitches. Hopefully, when you get to see this, we're all out of quarantine. We're in the sun, not living in bunkers. So thanks for sticking with us. And sorry if we have our pesky dogs up to no good in the background.
And thank you so much to our sponsor for the day, Surfshark. Without them, this interview with Owen wouldn't be possible.
Hi, Owen. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing about as well as I'm guessing everybody's doing, which is sitting inside my house, feeling bad while the largest civil rights movement in the past 50 years is happening.
So for people who are new to Infinity Train, for all the new viewers who are going to jump in because of it being released on HBO Max, how would you describe the show for them?
It is a science fiction fantasy show about people who get on a train and every car is a different universe and you have to get off the train and also you have a number on your hand and there's a bunch of mystery stuff. So that's how I would describe it to some random person. Probably not an executive. I would come with like a better line than that, but that's
And there's a bunch of mystery stuff.
And there's a bunch of mystery stuff and there's jokes and there's a robot and there's corgis.
I love corgis and I also love pugs and I have a pug. And man, the talking corgi car was just the best thing I've ever seen ever. It made me so happy. And then obviously immediately I was like, dang it, I want a pug car too. Oh man.
So I feel like everybody's been sort of like, well, where's my specialty breed of dog car?
Yeah, where's my dog car?
Yeah.
It has to be somewhere in there. It's an infinite train. They're infinite species.
Yeah, shut up and use your imagination.
We'll get there, guys.
I know that when you guys were creating season 1, obviously that came out and then season 2 happened really quickly after. Was that because you guys kind of were developing those at the same time and so that's how that happened?
Well, basically what happened with the season 1 and 2 is that it was we were only developing season 1. That's all that we were doing.
Right.
And so we were going through and being like, okay, well, this is the story we want to do. We think it should take 10 episodes. It should follow this arc and these are the cars and all that sort of stuff. And we figured out this whole story for 10 episodes. And we're like, great, love it. That was our only plan, was to make these 10 episodes. And then when we pitched it, Cartoon Network liked it a lot. And they were like, great, cool. We'll give you 20 episodes worth. And we were like, well, we only needed 10. So we don't want to just pad something out. Like when you get something really tight and compact like that, it's really hard to get it that way. And then to sort of add fillers, you can feel when that happens. So we were like, well, I guess we'll just do another story. And then it became an anthology show.
I really like that. That's because I was wondering if it was a scramble then to be like, oh wow, now we have to do a season 2, or if it had been kind of more planned like that. But I think that's really interesting.
It rolled pretty smoothly from season 1 into 2. It was, the only thing that we had with season 2 was just figuring out what is actually the best 2 that you can do.
Yeah.
And our goal was just well, what can we expand on? What sort of themes did we see come up in the first season that we never really got to really delve into further? And how can we expand on that stuff?
Oh, I love that. Because, with writing for storyboards or for writing for scripts, there's plotters versus pantsers. Either you fly by the seat of your pants or you kind of just carefully lay all of that out. Do you find that you gravitate towards one more than the other?
Oh yeah, I need to have the whole thing planned. It needs to be very structured. There's a certain fun looseness to people who are just sort of I'm just gonna go blah. I feel there's some shows that really do that very, very well. But I need to know where I'm going, what our goal is. It's very important because otherwise I just get lost and it doesn't feel like it serves a purpose. I don't know. It feels sort of whatever it is that we're making, I want to make sure that it's got an appropriate meaning and theme. And so if you just sort of go, you're not going to be able to check yourself. You're not going to be able to go okay, does this thing actually thematically fit what we're trying to say, or are we gonna have to later pull that back and go like, oh wait, no, never mind on that thing, and we actually mean this thing? Like, I don't want to have to do that.
Absolutely.
So I just
You know
like
your
planning it
destination.
out.
Yeah. You have a nice journey along the way. That's great.
Are we in? Ha! We're in! This is way too easy to hack into.
Downright embarrassing.
Now, NerdWire belongs to us. A channel that shall soon be dedicated 24/7 to laser pugs.
Yeah! Wait, what? I did not agree to that.
Deal with it!
I can't believe our moms don't use a VPN.
Yeah, don't those dum-dums know that when they use public Wi-Fi, they open themselves up to guys like us? Stealing their photos, passwords, videos, and other personal data?
Fools!
Not so fast!
Surfshark!
With a VPN or virtual private network like Surfshark, you securely connect to a separate server, keeping data safe from pests like you two.
Ah! Ugh!
You've stopped us this time, Surfshark.
Better make sure Surfshark is installed on all of NerdWire's devices. You can add an unlimited number of devices on just one account. Not only does it protect your data, but it can help with your internet speeds, prevent ISP throttling, and allow you to bypass blocks that keep you from accessing streaming sites like Netflix and Hulu. Surfshark is reliable, easy to use, and the whole NerdWire team will have 30 days to decide if it's the right fit. Otherwise, they'll get a full refund guaranteed. And hey, since my brother and his friend interrupted this video, let me share the site with you guys too. Click the link in this video's description and use the code NerdWire for 85% off and 3 extra months for free. Whew. Glad I got that fixed. Okay, now back to you, Mum.
Thank you so much, Gimli. Good boy. Pug, I swear, I better not hear any Borks out of you in retaliation for this, okay? Anyway, Owen, I was reading a lot before we were doing this interview about how if you got a season 3, you really wanted to explore empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And that really resonated with me because I think that's something we really need to look at, especially right now.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk more about what makes you want to talk about those things, or anything else you think that's important to really address with a young audience too?
Everything is a product of its time and a product of the situation that it was created within. So it's pretty easy to look at the world and say that there is a distinct lack of empathy coming from leadership. Like the people who are in control of so much stuff right now are perfectly willing to just sort of not care about how anybody's doing, you know? And not only not care, but actively hurt people. So that's sort of where these sort of things come from. Like, I don't really think of it so much as like, I'm trying to tell a story to kids. I rarely think about what are children going to think.
Right.
It doesn't come up. We only ever think about like, what am I feeling right now? And what do I wish the world was? And that's what we try to write. And it's basically a bunch of us sitting around in a room telling stories from our lives and being like, this sort of thing happened to me. This is sort of what I learned from it and what I wish other people would learn from this situation, or like this, you know, that's sort of where this sort of stuff comes from. So when I talk about like, I would like the 3rd season to talk a bit about empathy, I think it's pretty obvious, like with what's going on right now, that there's a severe lack of empathy going all the way up. And that's just like a core piece of being like a human. And we're clearly lacking our humanity at this time. So that's what I would want to get into, is stuff that's about that.
As far as stuff coming up for season 3, I'm very aware that a lot of your answers may be things like, I can't talk about that, and that's totally cool. But I was wondering if you could give us like any kind of hint, or any, like, if there's anything that you can say about whether or not we will be seeing some of the same characters from the last season come back up, and not just like one, but other characters at all from season 2.
There is no season 3.
No season 3?
There is not a season 3. There is
Bummer.
nothing has happened. But if there were a season 3, I would love to see some of the characters that appeared in season 2. But if you want more seasons, then you have to watch them on HBO Max.
Yes.
Exactly. Do
Specifically,
it.
HBO Max.
Specifically do it. Yeah, because they got that sweet deal, right? Where if you sign up, you get a 7-day free trial to test it out. That's enough time.
I have no idea how HBO Max works. What I do know is
I'm trying to be sneaky about.
She's doing a plug.
Thank you. Thanks. Sorry.
I'm trying to help you out here, buddy.
Yeah.
Hang on.
I'm just.
There's the potential then for more shorts. If we're not sure about season 3, are you going to do more things within the world of Infinity Train and get more short stories out there?
I would love to make more in many different mediums.
Cool.
There we go. I would love to make more. I want to make more. There are lots of people who want to make more. There needs to be proof that more should be made.
Right.
And that's HBO Max.
And that's HBO Max.
Yes.
The only place where you can get a 7-day free trial that allows you to watch both seasons of Infinity Train.
Yeah.
What a pro. Nailed it, Whit.
Nailed it.
I'm not good at that. Thank you for doing that.
Is it like so weird for you to have like internet strangers like coming up with theories and picking apart your work? Like that has to be weird, right?
Yes, it's very strange. I think one of the funniest things that happen though is that I've seen many times when people have gotten it totally right. Like I've seen it when people have gotten whatever it is and they got it right based on like one episode. I mean, this was like early on, like season 1 or whatever. It's the beginning of season 2 sometimes, where it's like somebody got it perfectly right, and then all the commenters and every person after them was like, "No, that wouldn't happen." And I've just been like, I hope this person remembers that they were right.
No, that's great.
Yeah, I like looking at all that stuff. I was afraid that when I looked at it, I would be like, oh no, maybe people will maybe I'll like get like ideas that I'm not supposed to use or something. But it turns out like everybody's so far behind on whatever it is that we're working on. There's nothing. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah,
it's fine.
It's fine. It is really weird to see people talking about stuff that I've worked on now, and not just stuff that I've worked on, but talking about like me personally, or talking about like people that I know or who've worked on the show. Like it's very strange to be like, Owen said this, and then I'll look at it and I'll be like, I've never said that, or like all kinds of weird stuff. Where like Owen hinted at this thing being a thing and this thing being a thing. You can take it apart. You can tell by how he like parses sentences here and there and there. And it's like, I'm not smart enough to do that. That's why I have writers who do those things for me. But whatever.
Well, listen, man, you sure have given us a really fun show for us to do our jobs with. So
happy to help.
You. So I'm a pretty diehard horror fan.
Mm-hmm.
Chris hates horror.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge wimp. I get spooked easily.
Mm-hmm.
She and I talk a lot about like exploring fear in like a safe medium. Mm. And I really liked that that's kind of something that you did with Infinity Train.
Yes.
I was totally floored that you were allowed to murder a corgi on a Cartoon Network. Like that's whack and wild to me. Loved that. Didn't love it because dead corgis suck, obviously, but like, you know, want them alive. He came back, but he's fine. But like, I thought that was crazy. So I just want to know, A, what horror movies sort of inspired you while you were making Infinity Train? And also, can you talk a little bit about using the medium of animation to kind of help explore like darker territory and fears that like kids would have or that people would have?
There's a packet that I hand out to storyboarders when they first get on the show. It has a section in there that I included that was called WWJCD. What would John Carpenter do? And it's just a section that just talks about the filmmaking aspects of John Carpenter. I love John Carpenter. In 80s horror movies, they couldn't show an entire monster like walking towards you or something, they might only be able to show a hand. They might only be able to show like this much because they would have had to make the whole thing, you know? If you want to do something that's like scary in animation, it's always this like, okay, now we're going to show this thing transform. We're going to draw this whole thing transforming or whatever. But in animation, just as well as film, sometimes you just shouldn't see it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you should just think about it and feel it, and that's it. And that's okay. But because it's animation, people go like, well, we have to use the medium to like really push something forward. You don't have to, you know?
Yeah.
There's a time and place for that sort of thing. So like something that we were doing in the 5th episode of Fame Train, which is the one where Tulip goes into her own memory tape, I was very specific with that one where I wanted it to be like, we're not going to show much in the way of like transformations. We're not going to like make the world go wow, but now I'm in a new place. It's got to be, I want it to go, we go to these different places via cutting, using as much film language as you can get from like 1960s and 70s thrillers or like psychological thrillers and stuff, where it's sort of like, now I'm in a strange new place, and on the cut it's somewhere else, and on the cut it's somewhere else. It's not actually drawing morphing stuff or whatever, because I feel like there's just something visceral to that surprise on the cut, you know?
You know, in Signs, when you see just the fingers under the doors, and that's the scariest thing ever, and then you finally see the weird fart finger and the whole alien, you're like, oh, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
Yeah. Like something that I really wanted when we were making the Gome, which are like the dog cockroach things. I was very specific in that I wanted the colors to be so dark. Like there are different tones of black on it, but I wanted them to be so dark that if your TV isn't that great, you cannot see what it is. Like, oh, wow. I wanted people to look at it and be like, even when I'm looking at it, I don't understand what I'm looking at, you know? Which I think that was inspired a lot by the way that, you know, Giger's Alien works, where it's like, you look at the alien and it's like, it's got pipes in it or something, like, I don't know, but like everything's the exact same color. So if you just can't really understand what you're looking at. Right. And so that's kind of, that was the goal with the Gome, which I think worked out okay.
How has all of this craziness and being stuck inside and the quarantine kind of affected your process with being creative and stuff?
Yeah, I haven't found myself being super creative in this time. I've wished that I could, but it's just like nothing comes out.
I think it's important for people to hear that even creative people are just messed up right now.
I think there's this push in our society in general that if you're not being productive, then you're not a worthwhile person. You know, like that's capitalism, you know?
Yeah,
so it's like if you're not making something for the system right now, then what are you doing? You have no reason to exist, you know? And it's pretty clear by government policies that that's what it is. This does not reflect Cartoon Network, but it reflects me.
Yes.
Is there a way that you kind of get yourself out of that rut, though? Do you have any little tools or tricks that help you kind of decompress and get ready to just shake off those feelings of pressure?
That's part of it. Is like normally what I would do is I take like once a year, I go on a technology-free vacation. So what I do is I get in my car and I drive a direction without a phone or a map or anything. I just go.
That's
and
bold.
then when I get tired, stop at a hotel or something. That's something that I found would clear my head, where it's just like go out into the woods for a while and just do nothing. And if you don't have your phone and you don't have any electronics with you, and you don't have a TV or anything, there's nothing to do. Like you find yourself being like, what time is it? And then like you can't even check what time it is. And like how do I get to that place over there? Like, I don't know. I guess I'll just have to go there. Like there's all these things that you start having to reset your brain into doing. And because your brain is like resetting itself, it sort of frees you up a little bit.
like a controlled Christopher McCandless situation where you have like a return date. Oh, Into the Wild, you know that.
Oh yeah, got it.
Yeah. Sorry,
No,
Alexander
it's fine.
Supertramp. Sorry, I should have used his Christian name.
Yeah, it's just a like it's just a resetting of your brain by making it so that
No,
your
that's
brain
great.
cannot do anything else except reset itself. But I can't do that now.
Oh, I feel
So good
you,
luck
yeah.
everybody who wants to take that advice because you can't.
Yeah.
Found a weird little fact that I want to see if it's true.
Mhm.
I saw that you were a Centipede Wrangler on the Val Kilmer horror film, The Thaw.
Yes.
How do you wrangle centipedes, man?
What does
Okay,
that mean?
So here's what happened. In college, my friends and I, including Toby from regular show, who's my partner and stuff, my friends and I, we drove to Iowa to go to a lizard convention. When we were at the lizard convention, we found a giant centipede. It was a centipede. It was like this big. It was like black and had like these orange legs or whatever. We named it Father Christmas, and we brought him back to Minnesota. And centipedes, they have to be fed, and often that includes feeding mice to them because they are carnivores.
They
And so
eat
you would have
mice?
They do eat mice, yes. I mean,
How
there's video
big
footage
was
of
the centipede?
it was it was a big.
Well,
big
yeah,
boy.
well, okay, sorry, I saw that, but
Oh,
like,
sorry, this is like
I guess,
around. I mean, it was kind of flat, so it was maybe like I'll say like half an inch tall and then like an inch wide, maybe somewhere in
I'm
there.
still trying to picture how this is gonna eat, like those little like snake mice, right? Like, how is it even swallowing that?
Well, so what it does, if you want to hear how a centipede
sorry,
eats a
yeah,
mouse,
tell me. Tell me
so
every gross thing about
so what
centipedes. Whoa! So
they're
its feet are
they're
filled with tiny syringes of Xanax.
yes. So yeah. So their centipedes have not really changed design in millions of years for a reason.
Dang.
So what my friends and I did was we were like, well, this is fascinating and terrifying. And so we filmed some of it and we put it up on YouTube for the centipede community. And a producer on The Thaw contacted us and they were like, hey, we're looking around for some footage that we can use in The Thaw. Could we use some video of your centipede? And at the time, we were like one of the only YouTube accounts that had centipede feeding footage.
Father Christmas was a star.
Yeah,
Innovator.
It really was. It was a big deal. And they were like, can we use some of this? And we were like, yeah, I guess. Like, we couldn't really figure out, like, what are you going to do with it?
That's
It's
amazing.
some Val Kilmer movie. And so they're like, okay, great. Is there anything you want in return? And we were like, yes. We want you to credit us as Pede Wranglers on the movie.
Amazing.
And that's it. You don't have to pay us. Just credit us as Pede Wranglers. So if you watch The Thaw, which I think was on HBO like last month or something, actually. If you watch The Thaw, my name is at the very, very end of The Thaw as not a Pede Wrangler, unfortunately, but centipede footage provided by.
Wow.
I'm glad IMDb at least has Centipede Wrangler.
Yeah, that's because I added that.
Good. Well
Yeah.
done.
It was
Well done.
important.
As you should have, sir. That is so fascinating.
Did Father Christmas influence the Stewart's design?
No, Stewart's design was something that I thought of while I was on one of those vacations where I was listening to My Friend Dario by Vitalik in the car as I was driving. It's not entirely electronics free, there's still music. And that's just the image that I thought of while I was doing it. And then I was like, I don't know, I gotta put something in here, and I threw her in there. And then
How many people a year do they kill when people just like fall off the train by accident?
hundreds. At
Hundreds.
least. Yeah,
Hundreds
it's a
of
real issue.
Another question along that line that I have, how many babies are born due to train f***ing each year?
That is a great question that I have no idea. Like the writers and I have all tried to figure out like if get on the train, and then a baby's born on the train. Does the baby get to go
Yeah,
back to
does the baby
Earth, or like how's
learn
that
a lesson?
work?
Does the baby get a number?
Because it feels like the baby shouldn't get a number, because then it's like, what, you're born into
born into sin,
yeah,
like
I was gonna
yeah,
say.
exactly. Like it feels like
believe.
that's not appropriate. Although at the same time, that does sort of, you're born into a system that is against you in some way. So I can understand how that part might work. But man, we've been wrestling with this one for a long time.
Glad to know I'm not the only one thinking about it.
Before we let you go, we have some questions from our Patreon members.
Okay.
This one is from Lauren Linton. Hi, Lauren.
Lauren.
How did you
Lauren.
manage to get Ashley Johnson to voice Tulip?
We asked her. She was the one person that I was like specifically like, could we just ask her to please read for the part, just because I think she'd be really good at it. And the reason I thought she'd be good at it is because, you know, I started playing Last of Us, and it was at the exact time that I was also figuring out like who would be the voice of Tulip. I feel like I know what she sounds like, but I can't figure out who that actress is. And then I played Last of Us, and I was like 5 minutes in to when her character, when Ellie gets introduced, and I was like, there we go, got it, great. And then so I asked if she would read, and she agreed, and then she did, and she did great.
The next one is from Logan Clad. He wants to know, what was the most difficult train car to incorporate into the story?
It doesn't, something that gets, I think, a little bit lost is it's not so much that there are train cars that are difficult to incorporate in the story. There are plenty of train cars that we've thought of like, oh, that'd be an interesting idea, and then we just sort of shelve it. But it's not so much that we take a story and then sort of shove a train car into it, or vice versa. It's more that like we figure out the story and what we want to do, and we go, okay, we break up each episode and be like, by the end of this episode, this should feel like this. And by the end of this episode, it should feel like this. How does one get to each of those feelings? And so what we'll do is be like, okay, well, the way you would get to that feeling is you'd probably have to confront this sort of issue. Okay, well, how can you represent that sort of issue in, you know, slightly more metaphorical terms, right? And then train cars get created from that. So it's not so much that we're trying to like take train cars and just mash them on. We're more like, the train cars exist because of the story that we were trying to write.
The follow-up to that, then, another one from Lauren, is are there any train cars that you didn't get to incorporate? Is there more of a story that you wanted to tell and you didn't get the opportunity to use a specific train or a specific set of rules to build upon that theme you were hoping to include?
Yeah, I mean, there's always some things where it's like, oh, that'd be a cool idea. Does not fit in any theme with what we're doing at all, anywhere. like we had one that was like a slot car racing car, but like couldn't figure out how to incorporate that, so just like it's gone. There's a number of them. I mean, whenever we come up with a new idea for a train car, we do like write it down and keep it somewhere. And so then when we're going through and like being like, oh, we can do this theme and this theme and this theme, do any of these feel like they actually might match up with that theme? And we can pull some of that. But it's not so much that they haven't been created or something. It's more that like we're just sort of waiting for those train cars to have their moment, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Owen, is there anything else that you think people need to know or that you want to share or that you want to plug?
Not that I can immediately think of about Infinity Train. There are plenty of things that I think people should be doing, which is getting active in their local communities when they can and where they can, staying safe while they do so. Basically, all people together should sort of form a union to tell the people that are in charge what it is that we want and how we want it done, because it's our country. So they have to listen to us. So if you keep pushing and you keep making informed decisions on who it is that you vote for and who it is that you support and who it is that you lift up, I think that's how we make things better going forward into the future. And so that's what I don't have anything else to plug.
That's the best thing to plug.
Please be good people.
Rights, basic human rights for everybody.
Yeah. anything that you have the ability to do something, just do it.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah,
Make
no
sure you
problem,
all
anytime.
watch Infinity Train on HBO Max.
Mhm.
This has been great. It was so nice to see a person
Yes.
who's not Whitney. I love her so much. Thank you.
I love you. It's so nice to see other people finally.
I love you.
I love you too.
I love you too.
I love you too,
Oh,
Owen.
what?
No, this is
Thanks,
wonderful.
Okay.
Seriously, this is so much fun, dude. I really, really appreciate you coming on to talk with us. Seriously, we're huge fans, and this means the
Yeah.
world. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you for being real about stuff too. That's
Yeah,
great.
we appreciate it.
I can't not be.
Yeah.
Stay safe out there.
Yeah, you too.
Smooch that new wife. Yay!
I will. Bye.
All right, bye.
All right, guys, if you want a season 3 of Infinity Train as much as we do, you gotta go watch it on HBO Max. So do that right now. Thank you so much to Owen Dennis once again for doing this interview with us. Thank you to Surfshark for making this interview possible. And thanks to all of you guys for tuning in. We'll see you, Space Cowboys.